Hi, you guys. How you doing? All right, so I'm reading this book. It's called Light on the Path. And I would read the whole book, but I'm just going to read this one little section that's called The Nature of God. It says, God, the Supreme Being, the one without a second, is known by more than one name. And there are many paths, forms of sadhana to reach him. God is infinite, and so are his names. Yogis call him Yanas, call him Soham, I am that. Some say he is Prana, pure wisdom. Some say he is Chaitanya, consciousness, and so on. One does not need a term to name the nameless. But all these names refer to the same entity called God. He is the supreme reality that the Upanishads call Brahman. Brahman can never be defined or described. It has no attributes, but it is the nature of Sat, Chit, and Ananda, existence, consciousness, and bliss. Different creeds and sects put forth various arguments and use every imaginable kind of logic to establish their own concept of God. Let anyone say anything, nevertheless, is absolutely true that God does exist, and he is... It's a long word, of course. I'm not going to be able to say it right. Satchidananda. Sorry if I messed that up. All dogmatic preachers of religion have conceived of, described, and presented that Satchidananda in the form which suits their own belief or conception. Some seek him in the form of Lord Vishnu, love incarnate. Others call him Sadashiva and the embodiment of peace. Some think of him as a void beyond the reach of the mind, and others describe him in the supremely blissful Brahman. In fact, everyone's concept of God conforms to his own attainment, and therefore these views should be regarded as correct, but partial. However, Satchidananda stands out as the truest and closest description of the Godhead, which is the incomprehensible and indescribable beyond. There are also various arguments for and against the form and the formless nature of God. But the nature of the incomprehensible Supreme Lord does not need proof by arguments. Being all-powerful, it is certainly not difficult for the formless to assume form for some specific purpose. If this attributeless, formless God can create the world with numerous hills and dales, rivers and seas by his own greatness, it should not be all difficult for him to assume the physical forms that have come to be known as Rama, Krishna, Buddha, Christ, Muhammad, and so on. Thus, it is easy for the unmanifest to become manifest in any form. It is necessary to argue whether God has any attributes. Even devotee can and should worship him according to his own approach, feeling, and sentiment. The amount of divine happiness derived by a devotee depends on entirely the intensity of his own feelings. Pure sentiment always brings high rewards. Some years ago in Maharashtra, there lived a saintly woman called Bahina Bai. She was a self-realized soul who worshipped truth and saw everything in its proper perspective. In one of her poems, she wrote, "Intense devotion begets the desired fruits and ultimately leads to salvation." The words of the Vedas, that even fire can be kindled by intensity of will, devotion, and faith, are true. Bhagawan Nityananda used to say that the devotee can perceive God in his own heart by pure devotion and faith. God is kind, compassionate, also generous in bestowing his grace. In order to realize that merciful one, a seeker must follow any one of the spiritual paths and follow the disciplines prescribed therein with earnest heart. But at the same time, we must remember that it is not fair to consider all other paths and disciplines inferior to our own. Bigotry cannot please God, because he is never captivated by any ritual or particular method of sadhana. It is only out of compassion that he reveals himself to the devotees when he is pleased by their selfless love. One should go straight ahead to one's own path of sadhana. One who wastes his time finding fault with or abusing other paths is indeed a stupid and unfortunate creature, such as an ignorant person is not entitled to have a vision of God. He invites and causes not only his own decline, but probably that of others. Genuine aspirants should beware of such pitfalls. God is one for all. Bhagawan Nityananda used to say that it is the same power that has manifested itself as Rama or Rahim or Kasav or Karim, and again it is the same power that has manifested itself as Christ. Allah, Madhava or Madhadeva, the Puranas, the Quran, the Bible all speak of him alone. The ultimate goal implied in the teachings of all the books of religions is the same. Only those who have faulty conceptions of whose tapasya, practice of spiritual austerities, is not pure and perfect, think in terms of superior and inferior and create confusion. In fact, for all beings of the earth is one, and the sky is one, and similarly the air they breathe, the water they drink, the food they eat is the same. Even the sustaining life force and all-pervading Chaitanya are the same. The nature of joy is felt in the heart is also one for all living beings. Where then lies the difference? Can a person who sees and preaches distinctions be considered a religious being? By its very nature, the Godhead is supremely blissful. It is full of love and sees no differences whatsoever. To commit the crime of making the distinctions of mine and yours, superior and inferior, is not the way to worship God. On the contrary, it is love of God that develops complete peace, everlasting peace, and nothing but peace. A person turns to religion so he can have true inner peace. A peace that the ancient sages attained within their innermost selves is attainable not only by Hindus, but equally by the followers of the Bible and the Quran. This is because the peace that spontaneously rises in the heart of essentially the same for all, he who resides in everyone's heart, is full of peace, bliss, and love and wisdom, and is effulgent and omnipresent. He is the most subtle, absolute truth and adorable God of all beings, and that alone is Satchidananda, or the Godhead. And then it goes on to another section called I know I'm not saying that word right, but it says Satchidananda. And then I'm going to read that in my next video. And then we'll go on, because it has a few more pages too. So I'm going to read the next few more pages in my next video. So that was the beginning of the nature of God. So, we all know, I'm pretty sure by now, that we shall have no idols, period. No graven images, no idols, none of that between us and the Most High. That's just not, it says that. And we are all one with the Most High. Because God is light, and that is who we are on the inside, is light. Jesus came to say, you are the light of the world. Meaning that we are the light body that's inside of this flesh, not this flesh. Okay, so if God is light, we are the light body that's inside. Who does that tell us we are one with? All glory to the Most High, of course. So I hope you enjoyed that little reading of the nature of God, and it has part 2. So I will be coming back with another video on the part 2, and it should be probably up by tomorrow. I love you guys. Have a beautiful day, and I'm going to go meditate for a few. Love you.